The vast expanse of the Andromeda Arm stretched out before Captain Elara Chen as she stood on the bridge of the Earth science vessel Curiosity. Her dark eyes scanned the holographic star map, focusing on a small, unremarkable system near the edge of charted space. "That's it," she murmured, more to herself than to her crew. "Novin Prime." First Officer Raj Patel looked up from his console, brow furrowed. "Captain, I'm still not picking up any signals from the planet. Are we sure the coordinates are correct?" Elara nodded, her short black hair catching the light of the nearby sun. "They're correct, Raj. The Novins, they've gone silent." The bridge fell into an uneasy quiet as the implications sank in. The Novins, a species of gentle, almost plant-like beings, had been sending distress signals across the galaxy for months. Their star was dying, becoming increasingly unstable. Soon, it would expand into a red giant, engulfing their homeworld. "What about the other races?" asked Lieutenant Sarah O'Neill, her Irish lilt tinged with concern. "Surely," someone responded. Ilara's jaw tightened. "They did. They all did," with silence. The Galactic Confederation, a loose alliance of the most powerful spacefaring races, had deemed the Novins non-essential. Their technology was primitive, their resources few. Saving them would be costly, with little return on investment. One by one, the major powers had turned their backs. "But that's barbaric," Sarah whispered, her freckled face pale with shock. "It's politics," Raj replied grimly. "Cold, hard, interstellar politics." Elara turned from the star map, facing her crew. "Which is why we're here. Humanity may be new to the galactic stage, but we haven't forgotten our values. The Confederation might see the Novins as expendable. We don't." She tapped a few commands on her wrist computer, bringing up an image of Novin Prime. Once a lush violet world of sprawling forests and shimmering seas, it now looked sickly. Vast swathes of the planet were brown and lifeless, scorched by the increasing heat of its dying sun. "Our mission is simple," Elara continued. "We make contact, assess the situation, and report back to Earth. If there's any way to help these people, we'll find it." "Captain," Raj interjected, his dark features creased with worry. "You know the risks. The Confederation has made its stance clear. If we intervene, we'll be doing what's right," Elara finished firmly. "I know the risks, Raj. We all do. But I didn't join the Earth Science Corps to turn my back on those in need." A chorus of agreement rippled through the bridge. These were scientists, explorers, the best and brightest Earth had to offer. They had ventured into the unknown not just for knowledge, but to make a difference. "All right then," Elara said, a small smile playing at her lips. "Let's see if we can raise anyone on the surface. Sarah, start broadcasting on all frequencies. Use the linguistic data we have on the Novin language." Sarah nodded, her fingers flying over her console. For several tense minutes, there was nothing but static. Then, faintly at first but growing stronger, a voice emerged from the speakers. The universal translator struggled for a moment before rendering the words in English. "Is Novin Prime. We hear you, unknown vessel. But please, save yourselves. Our fate is sealed. Do not risk the Confederation's wrath on our account." The voice was weary, resigned. It broke Elara's heart to hear such despair. "This is Captain Elara Chen of the Earth science vessel Curiosity," she responded, her voice steady and warm. "We've come to help, Novin Prime. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. Tell us what you need." There was a long pause, so long that Elara feared they had lost the connection. Then the voice returned, trembling with emotion their translator couldn't quite convey. You came. When all others turned away, you came. Why?" Elara looked at her crew, saw the determination in their eyes, the shared belief that had brought them across the stars. She smiled, and when she spoke again, her words carried the weight of Earth's resolve. "Because it's the right thing to do. And out here, among the stars, Doing the right thing is more important than ever. We're here, Novin Prime, and we're not going anywhere. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from every nation gathered to debate the Novin crisis. The circular room, with its towering windows offering a view of the gleaming spires of New Geneva, had never felt so small. Ambassador Zara Okonkwo of the African Union stood at the center, her voice carrying across the chamber. The report from Captain Chen is clear. The Novins are facing extinction. We have the means to help them. The question is, do we have the will? Murmurs rippled through the assembly. General Yuki Tanaka of the Pan-Asian Alliance leaned forward, his weathered face creased with concern. Ambassador, I sympathize with the Novins' plight, but we must consider the bigger picture. Earth is still finding its footing in galactic politics. Defying the Confederation could have severe consequences. And what of the consequences of inaction? Zara countered. Are we to stand by and watch an entire species perish simply because it's politically convenient? The chamber erupted into heated discussion. Earth had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, opening up a universe of possibilities and dangers. They were the new kids on the block, still learning the complex dance of interstellar diplomacy. Dr. Amelia Valdez, head of the Xenobiology Institute, cleared her throat. The room quieted as she spoke, her soft voice carrying an undercurrent of steel. Colleagues, let's consider the scientific implications. The Novins represent a unique form of sentient plant-based life. Their biology could hold the key to breakthroughs in medicine, terraforming, even sustainable energy. Losing them means losing invaluable knowledge. Knowledge won't matter much if we're ostracized from the galactic community, retorted Ambassador Liu Wei of the Chinese Federation. The Confederation has made its position clear. Interfering could jeopardize our trade agreements, our alliances, everything we've worked for since first contact. The debate raged on, the council chamber a microcosm of Earth's struggle to find its place in a vast, often indifferent universe. Hours passed, and still no consensus was reached. As the session neared its end, a figure rose from the back of the chamber. Secretary General Adaman Nkrumah, his dark skin contrasting sharply with his white hair, made his way to the center. The room fell silent. My friends, he began, his deep voice resonating with quiet authority. We stand at a crossroads, not just for Earth, but for our very humanity. Yes, helping the Novins carries risks. But let us consider the risk of turning our backs on those in need. He paused, his gaze sweeping the chamber. Throughout our history, humanity has faced moments that defined us. Moments where we chose between expediency and morality, between fear and courage. This is such a moment. Nkrumah activated the holodisplay, bringing up an image of Novin Prime. Look at this world, my friends, a cradle of life, of culture, of hopes and dreams not so different from our own. Now ask yourselves, if it were Earth facing such a fate, wouldn't we hope that someone somewhere would answer our call? The chamber was silent, every eye fixed on the slowly dying world projected before them. We have debated strategy, politics, and consequences, Nkrumah continued. But perhaps we should be asking a simpler question. What kind of species do we want to be? One that reaches for the stars with open hands, ready to help and be helped in turn. Or one that closes its fist, concerned only with its own survival. He turned, addressing each section of the chamber in turn. We are new to this galactic stage, yes. But that means we have the opportunity to define ourselves, to show the universe not just our technological achievements, but the strength of our convictions, our compassion, our humanity. Nkrumah's words hung in the air, a challenge and a call to action. Slowly, heads began to nod. Whispers of agreement spread through the chamber. I propose, the Secretary General said, his voice rising, that we put it to a vote. Not just as representatives of our nations, but as representatives of humanity. Will we extend our hand to the Novins, whatever the cost? Will we show the galaxy that Earth stands for something greater than mere self-interest? As the voting commenced, there was a palpable shift in the chamber. The fear and hesitation that had dominated the debate began to give way to something else. Resolve. A shared determination to prove that humanity's first steps into the cosmos would be guided not by fear, but by compassion. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance as the votes were tallied, each yeah or nay echoing through the chamber like the tick of a cosmic clock. The hangar bay of the newly commissioned starship Horizon bustled with activity. Crates of supplies were being loaded, last-minute checks performed on systems, and tearful goodbyes exchanged between crew members and their families. At the center of it all stood Commander Alexei Volkov, his steel-gray eyes surveying the organized chaos. "Are we ready, Lieutenant Commander Hayes?" he asked, turning to his second-in-command. Sarah Hayes, her red hair tied back in a tight bun, nodded crisply. "Yes, sir. All systems are go, and the crew is at 100% readiness. We're just waiting on our final passenger." As if on cue, the hangar doors slid open, revealing a petite woman with close-cropped silver hair. Dr. Amara Okafor, Earth's leading xenobiologist, strode purposefully towards them, her hover case trailing behind. Dr. Volkov greeted her with a slight bow. "Welcome aboard the Horizon." Amara's dark eyes sparkled with excitement. "Thank you, Commander. I must say, I never thought I'd be part of a mission quite like this." "None of us did," Sarah chimed in. "But here we are, about to embark on what might be the most important journey in human history." Volkov nodded gravely, "and possibly the most dangerous. The Confederation has made it clear that any attempt to aid the Novins will be seen as a hostile act. We'll be on our own out there." "Then we'd better not fail," Amara said, her voice filled with determination. As the final preparations were made, Volkov addressed his crew. 200 of Earth's finest, scientists, engineers, soldiers, and diplomats, all volunteering for a mission that could end in triumph or disaster. "Men and women of the Horizon," he began, his deep voice carrying across the hangar. "Our mission is unlike any other in human history. We go not to conquer, not to exploit, but to save. The Novins face extinction, abandoned by those who should have helped them. We have chosen a different path." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The journey ahead will be fraught with danger. We may face hostility from other races, treacherous space phenomena, and challenges we can't even imagine. But we go because it's right, because in saving the Novins, we save a part of ourselves." A cheer went up from the crew, their faces alight with purpose and resolve. As they boarded the Horizon, Sarah fell into step beside Volkov. "Sir, do you really think we can pull this off? The odds are stacked against us." Volkov's lips quirked in a small smile. "Lieutenant Commander, humanity has always thrived on beating the odds. Besides, we have something the Confederation doesn't." "And what's that, sir?" "Hope, Sarah, and the stubborn refusal to give up on it." With a final look at Earth through the view screen, Volkov gave the order. The Horizon's engines roared to life, and the sleek vessel rose from its berth, climbing through the atmosphere and into the star-studded expanse of space. As Earth dwindled behind them, the reality of their mission began to set in. They were heading into uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively. The ship's AI, Araya, plotted a course that would take them through the least populated sectors of space, minimizing the chance of detection. In the science lab, Dr. Okafor and her team were already hard at work, poring over the limited data they had on Novin biology and culture. "If we're going to save them," she mused, "we need to understand them. Their physiology, their needs, their way of life. We can't just swoop in and impose our ideas of rescue." Meanwhile, in engineering, Chief Engineer Zain Mirza was fine-tuning the experimental warp drive that would hopefully get them to Novin Prime in time. "We're pushing this technology to its limits," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "Let's just hope it holds together." On the bridge, Volkov and Hayes monitored their progress, acutely aware of the immense responsibility resting on their shoulders. They weren't just carrying supplies and personnel. They were carrying the hopes of two worlds. As the horizon streaked through the cosmos, its crew settled into their routines, each day bringing them closer to their destination and the unknown challenges that awaited them. They trained, they planned, they prepared for every contingency they could think of. But as they would soon discover, the universe had surprises in store that no amount of preparation could have anticipated. Their journey to save the Novins was about to become far more complex and far more perilous than anyone could have imagined. After weeks of tense travel through the silent void of space, the horizon emerged from its final warp jump. Novin Prime loomed before them, a planet of sickly purples and browns, wreathed in angry swirls of atmospheric disturbance. "My God," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. "It's worse than we thought." Volkov's jaw tightened. Araya scanned for life signs and any operational technology on the surface. The AI's cool voice filled the bridge. Scans indicate approximately 3.2 million Novin life forms, primarily concentrated in underground structures. Surface temperatures have risen 15 degrees beyond sustainable levels for Novin biology. I'm detecting minimal operational technology, suggesting a significant regression in their civilization. Dr. Okafor, who had joined them on the bridge for their arrival, shook her head in dismay. They've been forced underground. Their entire way of life has been upended. As the horizon entered orbit, a weak transmission crackled through their comms. The universal translator struggled to keep up with the alien language, but the message was clear, a mixture of disbelief, hope, and desperate pleading. Volkov opened a channel. "This is Commander Alexei Volkov of the Earth ship Horizon. We've come to help. Please, guide us to a safe landing zone." What followed was a chaotic descent through turbulent atmosphere. The horizon shuddered and groaned, its heat shield straining against the increased solar radiation. Zane's voice came through from engineering, tense but controlled. "We're redlining several systems, Commander. This landing's going to be rough." With expert piloting and more than a little luck, they touched down on a vast, barren plain. As the dust settled, they got their first ground-level view of Novin Prime. The landscape was alien and foreboding. Withered vegetation, cracked earth, and in the distance, the dim glow of the swollen, dying sun. "Atmospheric suits on," Volkov ordered. "Dr. Okafor, you're with me. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, coordinate with Chief Mirza to set up our base camp. Be ready for anything." As the away team stepped onto Novin soil, they were met by a group of the planet's inhabitants. The Novins were tall, slender beings with bark-like skin and leaves instead of hair. Their eyes, large and luminous, regarded the humans with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. One Novin stepped forward, its leaves quivering. "You came," it said, the words halting as it used the universal translator. "Why?" "Others. Abandoned." Dr. Okafor stepped forward, her hands open in a gesture of peace. "We came because it was right, because no sentient being should face extinction alone. I'm Dr. Amara Okafor, and we're here to help you survive." The Novin's eyes widened, a bioluminescent pulse rippling through its body, a sign of strong emotion. "I am Jor, Elder of the Last Grove. Please, follow. Not safe here." As they were led to the underground sanctuary of the Novins, the true scale of the crisis became apparent. Vast caverns had been hollowed out, filled with thousands of Novins in various stages of distress. Many looked withered, their leaves brown and brittle. "Our sun," Jor explained, gesturing to a complex series of murals on the cave walls. "It dies. We die with it. Unless we can evacuate you," Volkov finished. "That's why we're here. But we need to understand your needs, your biology. We have limited time and resources." Dr. Okafor was already scanning the environment, her eyes wide with scientific fascination despite the grim circumstances. Commander, their biology is incredible. They've adapted to subterranean life in ways I never imagined possible. But they're suffering. The lack of sunlight, the changing atmosphere, it's killing them slowly. As they delved deeper into the Novin underworld, the complexity of their task became increasingly clear. This wasn't just about loading a population onto ships. The Novins were deeply connected to their world, their very biology intertwined with the planet's ecosystems. We don't just need to move them, Dr. Okafor realized aloud. We need to find them a new home, one that can support their unique needs. Volkov nodded grimly. And we need to do it before their sun expands further, or before the Confederation realizes what we're doing. As if in response to his words, Aria's voice came through their comms, urgent and alarming. Commander, I'm detecting multiple ships entering the system. Configuration suggests Confederation peacekeeping forces. The humans and Novins exchanged looks of dismay. Their time had just run out. Volkov's voice was steel as he gave his orders. Back to the ship. Now. We need to establish orbital defenses. Dr. Okafor, work with the Novin elders. We need an evacuation plan, and we need it yesterday. As they rushed back to the surface, the dying sun of Novin Prime seemed to glare down at them, a countdown to extinction made manifest in the sky. The real challenge was just beginning. The bridge of the horizon was a hive of tense activity as Volkov and his crew assessed their dire situation. The holographic display showed 5 Confederation warships entering the system, their weapons systems powering up. "They're hailing us, sir," Sarah reported, her fingers dancing over the communications console. Volkov straightened his uniform, steeling himself. On screen, the stern face of Admiral Xandar appeared, his blue-scaled skin shimmering under the lights of his own bridge. His 4 eyes narrowed as he spoke, mandibles clicking in barely concealed anger. "Commander Volkov, you are in violation of Confederation decree." Xandar's translated voice boomed. "The fate of the Novins has been decided. Stand down and prepare to be boarded, or face the consequences of your actions." Volkov's voice was calm, but firm. "Admiral, with all due respect, we cannot comply. The Novins are a sentient species facing extinction. We have a moral obligation to help them." Xandar's upper eyes blinked in what might have been surprise. "Moral obligation. You humans are new to the galactic stage. You don't understand the complexities at play here. The resources required to save one primitive species could benefit billions across the Confederation. And what message does that send, Admiral?" Volkov countered. "That the worth of a civilization is measured only in its utility to others. We reject that notion. Every sentient species has the right to exist." The Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Your idealism is admirable, but misplaced. This is your final warning. Stand down, or we will open fire." As the transmission cut off, the bridge erupted into action. "Sir, what are your orders?" Sarah asked, tension evident in her voice. Volkov's mind raced, weighing their limited options. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they couldn't abandon their mission. Not now. "Zane," he called to engineering, "how quickly can we get the Novins onto our ship?" "Even if we pack them in like sardines, it would take days, sir," came the reply. "And that's assuming they can even survive in our environment." Dr. Okafor, who had been quietly analyzing data in the corner, spoke up. "Commander, I may have a solution, but it's risky and will need time." "Time is the one thing we don't have, Doctor," Volkov said grimly, watching as the Confederation ships moved into attack formation. "Then we'll have to make some," Sarah interjected, a spark of determination in her eyes. "Sir, what if we use the planet's unstable sun to our advantage?" Understanding dawned on Volkov's face. A delaying tactic. "Brilliant, Sarah. Make it happen." As Sarah coordinated with the science team to implement their desperate plan, Volkov opened a channel to the Novin elders. "Jor, we need your people ready to move at a moment's notice. Can you do that? The elder's voice came through, tinged with both fear and resolve. We are ready, Commander. Our fate is in your hands. The next hours were a frantic blur of activity, as the Horizon executed a series of daring maneuvers, using the intense solar flares of the dying sun to disrupt the Confederation ship's sensors and communications. Dr. Okafor and her team worked tirelessly on their mysterious solution. On Earth, news of the confrontation had leaked, sparking a global debate. Footage of the Novin's plight, secretly transmitted by the Horizon, went viral. Protests erupted outside Confederation embassies, while diplomats worked frantically behind the scenes to prevent all-out war. Admiral Xandar, growing increasingly frustrated, finally lost patience. All ships target the Horizon. Prepare to fire. But just as the Confederation weapons locked on, a new signal cut through the chaos. It was a transmission from Earth, marked with the highest priority. Secretary General Nkrumah's face appeared on screens across both fleets. This is an official notification to all parties. By unanimous vote of the United Earth Council, we are extending an offer of protectorate status to the Novin species. Any action against them or the Horizon will be considered an act of war against Earth itself. The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembled ships. Xandar's mandibles worked silently as he processed this unexpected development. Nkrumah continued, his voice carrying the weight of an entire planet's resolve. We understand the Confederation's position, but we cannot and will not stand by while an entire species faces extinction. We propose an immediate ceasefire and the formation of a joint task force to address this crisis. There was a long, tense moment of silence. Then, slowly, the Confederation ships powered down their weapons. Admiral Xandar's voice came through, subdued but still carrying a note of warning. We will agree to a temporary ceasefire, pending review by the Confederation Council. But make no mistake, humans. Your actions here will have consequences. As the immediate threat of violence dissipated, Volkov allowed himself a small sigh of relief, but he knew this was only the beginning. They had bought time and a chance for diplomacy, but the real work of saving the Novins was still ahead. Dr. Okafor, he called, turning to the scientist. I hope your solution is ready, because I have a feeling we're going to need it sooner rather than later. Amara nodded, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of exhaustion and excitement. It's ready, Commander. And if it works, it might just change everything we thought we knew about interstellar relocation. As the Horizon's crew braced for the challenges ahead, the fate of two species, and perhaps the future of galactic politics, hung in the balance. As the uneasy ceasefire held, the Horizon's crew worked feverishly to implement Dr. Okafor's plan. The scientist had proposed a radical solution, using a combination of advanced terraforming techniques and Novin biology to create a self-contained ecosystem within a fleet of massive generation ships. It's not just about moving them, Dr. Okafor explained to a rapt audience of human crew and Novin elders. It's about transplanting their entire biosphere. The Novins aren't just connected to their world. They are their world. The plan was audacious. They would use the Horizon's matter replicators to create the basic structure of the generation ships, then seed them with carefully selected samples of Novin flora and fauna. The Novins themselves would form the keystone of this living ark, their bodies acting as conduits for the energy that would sustain the miniature ecosystems. As the first generation ship took shape in Novin Prime's orbit, tension remained high. The Confederation fleet lurked at the edge of the system, a constant reminder of the fragile nature of their truce. Volkov stood on the Horizon's observation deck, watching as shuttles ferried supplies and personnel between the ships. Sarah joined him, her face etched with worry. Do you think we can really pull this off, sir? She asked. Volkov's eyes remained fixed on the bustling activity outside. We have to, Sarah. There's no other choice. But even as hope began to grow, disaster struck. A massive solar flare, far larger than any they had predicted, erupted from Novin Prime's dying sun. Alarms blared throughout the fleet as the wave of superheated plasma raced towards them. All hands, brace for impact. Volkov's voice boomed over the comms. The horizon shuddered as the flare hit, its shields straining to the breaking point. As the chaos subsided, the true cost became clear. 2 of the partially completed generation ships had been destroyed, and the Horizon's warp drive was severely damaged. "Commander," Zane's voice came through, tight with stress. "We've lost over 40% of our matter replication capacity. At this rate, we won't be able to complete enough ships before the sun goes nova." The news hit like a physical blow. They had come so far, only to be thwarted by the very force they were trying to outrun. It was Jor who broke the ensuing silence, the Novin elder's voice carrying a strength that belied his fragile appearance. "Then we will make do with what we have. Our people have faced extinction before. We will endure, even if not all of us can be saved." The elder's words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the terrible choices that might lie ahead. But Volkov wasn't ready to give up. "No," he said, his voice firm. "We didn't come this far to save only some of you. There has to be another way." It was Sarah who provided the spark of inspiration. "The Confederation ships," she said, her eyes widening with realization. "Their matter replication technology is even more advanced than ours. If we could convince them to help." Volkov nodded slowly, hope rekindling in his eyes. "It's a long shot, but it might be our only chance. Open a channel to Admiral Xandar." The conversation that followed was tense, with Xandar initially dismissing the idea outright. But as Volkov laid out the situation, the impending nova, the destroyed ships, the lives at stake, something seemed to shift in the Admiral's demeanor. "You would risk everything for these beings," Xandar said, his multiple eyes blinking in what might have been confusion. "Why?" Volkov's response was immediate and heartfelt. "Because it's the right thing to do, Admiral. Because every sentient species deserves a chance at survival. And because if we turn our backs on the Novins now, we lose a part of our own humanity." There was a long pause, the only sound the soft beeping of instruments and the anxious breathing of the crew. Finally, Xandar spoke. "Very well, Commander. We will assist you. But know this, our help comes with conditions. The Novins, and humanity by extension, will need to answer to the Confederation Council for these actions." As the Confederation ships moved into position, their matter replicators joining the effort to complete the generation ships, a palpable sense of hope spread through the assembled fleet. But even as they worked, a new threat loomed. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching. Hardliners within the Confederation who opposed any aid to the Novins and saw this as an opportunity to put the upstart humans in their place. Volkov's voice was grim as he addressed the combined human and Confederation crews. "We have hours, at most before they arrive. Every second counts. We finish these ships, we load the Novins, and we give them a fighting chance at a new life." As the clock ticked down, and the work continued at a frantic pace, the fate of an entire species hung in the balance. The true test of humanity's resolve, and the strength of their newfound alliance, was about to begin. The combined fleet worked with desperate intensity as the hours ticked away. Confederation and human crews, once adversaries, now labored side by side, driven by a shared purpose that transcended their differences. The partially completed generation ships slowly took shape, their vast hulls housing intricate ecosystems that would sustain the Novin people on their long journey to a new home. Dr. Okafor moved between the ships, her expertise guiding the delicate process of transplanting Novin biospheres. "It's working," she reported to Volkov, her eyes alight with a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. "The Novins are connecting with the ship's systems. They're becoming one with their new homes." But even as hope grew, the threat loomed larger. The Hardliner fleet drew ever closer, their intentions clear. "Stop the evacuation at any cost." Admiral Xandar's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander Volkov, we've bought you as much time as we can. Our long-range weapons are charged and ready, but we're outnumbered. Once they arrive, I cannot guarantee we can hold them off for long." Volkov nodded grimly. Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready. He turned to his crew. This is it, people. Everything we've fought for comes down to the next few hours. Let's make them count. As the last of the Novins were loaded onto the generation ships, a tense quiet fell over the fleet. The massive vessels, each one a self-contained world, hummed with newfound life. Jor, standing beside Volkov on the Horizon's bridge, spoke softly. Whatever happens next, know that the Novin people will forever remember the sacrifice and courage shown here today. Volkov was about to respond when alarms blared across the ship. Sarah's voice rang out, tense but controlled. Multiple ships dropping out of warp, sir. It's the hardliner fleet. The view screen lit up with the arrival of hundreds of Confederation warships, their weapons already powering up. A harsh voice transmitted across all frequencies. This is Grand Marshal Krell of the Confederation Security Force. You are in violation of multiple Confederation edicts. Stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. Volkov's response was calm but resolute. This is Commander Alexei Volkov of Earth. We are engaged in a humanitarian mission to save an endangered species. We will not stand down. What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had seen. The Horizon, alongside Xandar's ships, and the fledgling Novin fleet formed a defensive perimeter. As the hardliners opened fire, the Allied ships returned in kind, their weapons flashing against the backdrop of Novin Prime's swollen sun. But it was a battle they couldn't win through firepower alone. As the Horizon shuddered under enemy fire, Volkov realized they needed something more. Sarah, he called out, broadcast on all frequencies. I want every ship in this system to hear this. As the channel opened, Volkov's voice rang out, clear and impassioned. This is Commander Volkov to all ships. Look around you. Look at what we've accomplished here today. Humans, Confederation, Novins, all working together to save a species from extinction. This is what we can achieve when we set aside our differences and embrace compassion. He paused, letting his words sink in. To the hardliner fleet, I implore you to reconsider your actions. The Novins pose no threat. Their only crime is wanting to survive. Are we, as sentient beings, not better than this? Can we not find it in ourselves to extend a hand to those in need? As Volkov spoke, something remarkable began to happen. Ships from the hardliner fleet began to break formation, their weapons powering down. Grand Marshal Krell's voice came through, filled with fury. What are you doing? Get back in formation. That's an order. But more and more ships peeled away, forming a new line between the Novin fleet and the remaining hardliners. Admiral Xandar's voice, tinged with awe, came over the comms. It appears, Commander Volkov, that your words have struck a chord. As the battle died down, a new transmission cut through the chaos. It was Secretary General Nkrumah, his face grim but determined. This is an emergency broadcast to all ships in the Novin system. The United Earth Council, in conjunction with sympathetic members of the Confederation, hereby declares this sector a protected zone. Any further hostile action will be met with the full diplomatic and military response of Earth and our allies. A cheer went up across the Allied fleet as the remaining hardliner ships stood down. The Novin generation ships, their engines glowing with newfound energy, began to move out of the system. As the immediate danger passed, Volkov found himself standing with Jor, watching as the massive ships carried the hope of an entire species to safety. Where will they go? He asked softly. Jor's leaves rustled in what might have been a smile. To a new home, Commander. And thanks to you, with a new understanding of their place in the galaxy. As the Novin fleet disappeared into the depths of space, Volkov knew that this was more than just the salvation of one species. It was the beginning of a new era for humanity and the galaxy at large. An era where compassion and cooperation could triumph over fear and self-interest. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as the Horizon set course for Earth, carrying with it a story that would change the course of galactic history forever.